It's the Sick Show. It's the Sick Show.
It's the Sick Show.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Schick Show, and I'm here with Scott Winger. Scott Winger is a student I had as an 8th grader, and super excited to get to know you. This guy, I'm going to share a story about you here in a little bit.
Oh boy.
It's going to come out in our conversation, but you know, when you're looking to judge somebody's character, you judge that by their actions. And boy, have I got a story to tell about Scott. And I don't know if you know this whole story. I think you'll remember part of it, but you may not remember the whole thing. Which, in fact, I'm sure you don't know the whole story. So I may be able to do it without getting choked up. So I won't be able to look at you when I'm telling it. But anyway, so tell us a little bit about you, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Scott Winger. And so senior year, I applied to the AirForce Academy in Colorado Springs. And it was a tough application process, a real pain in the butt, to be honest. But my father had went there, my mother had went there, and my uncle had went there. So I had that up in place. My grandfather's a Vietnam fighter pilot. So we did that, went through the application process. And I remember it was spring break, and I opened my computer, and it was like, make sure you get your shots, because you're an applicant. Make sure you get your shots because you're coming in. And I was like, I don't remember getting an acceptance letter. And so I go into they had this website, and I go in, and I got accepted, and I was beyond excited. I call everyone I know, and all that. Dad choked up on the other end of the phone when I
can't
told him.
imagine.
And so yeah. And I went through my first year. It's called dually year. Dually, I believe, is Greek for slave. So
Okay.
that's cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
First year sucked. But, I mean, everybody goes through it. And I think it really built me as a future leader, for sure. I saw what I don't want to be, and I saw what I do want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really helps set up for this year, because each year it's kind of a different leadership building process. So the first year is personal. You work on yourself. You work on being a follower, because every good leader is a follower. And then the second year is interpersonal, and then you work on teams, and then you work on organizations as a senior. And so right now, each sophomore is paired up with a freshman. It's called a coach and a coachee. And so right now, I am the coach for 2 freshmen. And so I'm really trying to emulate the leader that I want to be and show that to them.
I want to back up a little bit, and let's talk about that application process and just the odds of getting acceptance. There's no guarantee here. It's
Yeah.
this is something. There's a process to it. There's a rate of acceptance that I want to make sure our listeners are aware of.
Yeah, I think the rate of acceptance is 9%,
9.
9 or 10%, somewhere around there.
Let's say it's 10%, just to help us all with the math, right?
Mhm.
1 out of 10.
Yep.
10 out of 100. How many applicants? Do you know? Do you know that
I
number?
believe it was either 30 or 40,000. No, it was less than that. I don't know the exact number now.
How many freshmen come in?
My class had 1,072 at the start of basic.
So if we're at 30,000, that acceptance rate just dropped to like 3% if 1,000 are getting in.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but I believe the acceptance rate is 9%, somewhere around there.
Interview process in that?
Yeah, so there's multiple steps. First of all, you fill out the application to the Air Force Academy. So everything on paper, normal college stuff, like one would, essay, yada yada, and then you also have to get a nomination from either your congressman, your congresswoman, senator, president, or vice president. And so without that nomination, you don't get in. And so you have to also apply to get an interview with them, an interview with their board in order to get that nomination. So that's a whole completely different application. And then also to apply, you have to do it's called the CFA, the Candidate Fitness Assessment. And so it's kind of some weird stuff. Like there's a basketball throw, kneeled, and a shuttle run, push-ups, pull-ups, mile run. And so some of those you video and send in. Others, you just write down what you got and send it in. But every candidate needs to do that. And then, yeah, so you can have a nomination, but then the Air Force Academy can still reject you.
Okay.
So you'll get your nomination like, oh, you got a nomination into the Air Force Academy, or I also applied to West Point. See that, and that's exactly what happened with me in West Point. Was I had my nomination for West Point, and then I get a email, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't make it," and I was like,
Okay.
"Well, that makes the decision easy. You can go to Air Force Academy."
Okay.
So yeah, that definitely is a big part of that.
I knew your dad had gone. I wasn't aware of your mother being at the Air Force Academy as well.
Yeah, my mother. So it was actually my mom told me that God had closed the door multiple times, but she said that God's a gentleman and that if you pry it open, he'll open the door. So she,
Knowing your mom, I totally get it, and I makes so much sense.
oh yeah. So God had told her multiple times not to go to the Air Force Academy. And also, one of the main reasons that she went is because my grandfather said, don't go to the Air Force Academy.
she's
Yeah.
she's so hard headed.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it.
Oh, yeah.
That's her.
hmm
That's
And so she gets in and makes it through up to her junior year. And then her junior year, she got kicked out because she didn't meet the weight requirements. She was 174 and she needed to be 169.
she's a strong lady.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And it was just, she was trying and she couldn't get the weight off. And that was, that was the final straw. And so she got kicked out.
wow.
And then she finished her education in Nevada. I can't remember which college. So yeah, after that, so the beginning of your junior year, you have what's called commitment.
Okay.
And that is you are now committed to the Air Force Academy. And if you get kicked out or you separate, then you owe the Air Force some type of compensation. So for the first 2 years, you could go and then you decide, oh, I don't like it, then just leave and go to some other college and you don't owe the Air Force anything. But the moment of the moment you commit, then you owe the Air Force something. So she had committed at that point. So then she went and served 2 or 3 years as an airman on the enlisted side to work that off. And then my uncle was also the same class as my father. They knew of each other.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they didn't know because my mother's 3 years older than my father. They knew of each other, but didn't interact like on a day-to-day basis. And so, yeah, then so they both graduated in 90. My dad became a contractor, and then my uncle went to UPT, undergraduate pilot training, and became an F-16 pilot.
Okay. So this isn't something new. Going to the Air Force Academy wasn't, or one of the academies wasn't a new idea for you.
No, it's kind of funny. When I see people through the hallways, they're always like, "Oh, what's going on, Scott? Like, how you feeling?" And every day, same response. I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You always say that." And I was like, "Because I am. This has been my dream since the beginning of my 7th grade year. So I had this dream forever to come to the Air Force Academy, do well, and now my dream is to fly. I wasn't sure when I came in, but I did a summer program over the summer, obviously, and where I went up and flew with IPs in a T-53, which is the Academy's trainer.
Okay.
It's just a little one-engine prop plane, and I had a great time. I was like, I need to be a pilot. There's nothing else. I don't want to sit behind a desk and push paper.
Right.
So
I can't see you doing that.
no, it'd be no fun.
No. You've always been very active, and you're a people person.
That's right.
And not that being a pilot's a people person job. I'm not saying that, but you gotta be challenged
Mhm.
on a regular. I'm not ready to share yet, but I'm going to.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a little bit about. So Scott and I met probably seventh, eighth grade.
Yeah.
Um, I had him as a student in eighth grade, and I'm in charge of was in charge of the Washington D.C. trip. And through that process, there were some students who were going to Washington D.C. and we had some chaperones, and your dad was one of them. So going back to D.C. and hearing your dad tell stories about Washington D.C.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you
He
guys
wa-
lived
yeah.
there. How long? I mean, uh,
We lived. We lived in Virginia for 3 years. He worked. I believe he worked in Washington D.C. I was young. I was 8 to 11
okay.
at that point, and
Yep.
we were 40 minutes outside of Washington D.C.
He was telling stories about the slug lane. And, you always see this sign says slug lane something, right? I had no clue what the slug lane was, but he was explaining it to me. It's, basically a commuter type lane. But I just think it's interesting. It's called the slug lane. So those who've been in DC or around, the loop there, the slug lane, look into it and see what it is. It's really interesting. Anything is called the slug lane, right? But anyway, so we go to DC. Dale is one of our chaperones, and it was really cool to have, not only you got to be licensed to be a tour guide there. I don't know if you guys were aware of that or
Did
not.
not know that.
Yes, I wish I'd share that with my students when I was doing it, that you have to be licensed. It's not like I could go there after doing it, for a few years and tell the story, right?
Mhm.
I can't. It's not legal. You have to be licensed to be a tour guide in DC. So we have our tour guide who's very knowledgeable and sharing some stuff. We drive by things. Oh, look over here, you'll see this, blah blah blah. And during the day, they move the lanes. But you could also hear Dale telling stories about DC, and kind of in the background or filling in gaps while the guide's not talking. So as we move through, we end up at I'm having a moment here. The cemetery,
Arlington.
Arlington. Thank you. I was in my head Annapolis. I know that's not right. That's
Not quite.
West Point, right? Is that Annapolis?
Annapolis is Navy.
Navy.
Yeah.
I'm not a military guy.
That's okay.
That's why I love you guys. I'll leave that to you. So we end up at Arlington, and as we're going through, there were some students that were selected to lay the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Scott was one of those. And there were 3 others. There were 2 boys, 2 girls. And do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember Jeremiah Clark was one of the boys, and then
Yep.
Sophia Jenna John was one of the girls, but I can't remember the other. Was it Vanessa?
Nope.
I don't remember.
Kelsey Mosley. So for those 4, I follow them down, and there's dress code with that and everything else. So they get changed into their clothes to lay the wreath. And at this point, none of them know who the 2 are who are going to walk up to lay the wreath. Right?
Mhm.
So we go back behind, like to the quarters of where the soldiers stay, and the guards stay, and one of the guards comes out and starts giving instruction. And at that point, he asks who will be coming up with the guard to lay the wreath. Scott was one of those, and Kelsey Mosley was the other. So in that moment, now this was all voted on by leadership at the school. There was a vote taken by all the teachers of who was going to be the one, who was going to go do it. And then the top 2 vote getters for the top vote getter for the boy, the top vote getter for the girl were the ones that were selected. I don't know if you guys knew that either.
Did not know that.
So the teachers select that, and it's based on character. It's based on academics. It's based on who best represents our crew while we're there. We get back there, and he asks who's going to go up with the wreath. Scott was one, Kelsey was the other. And in that moment, you saw it, I saw it. Jeremiah Clark goes, dang it, that's it. Very slight. I don't even know if he said it out loud, but
Might have been just a facial.
it was just
expression.
maybe it was just, as
Mhm.
simple as that. Scott turns and says, do you remember what you said?
I think I said, "Well, do you want to do it?"
Those are the exact words in almost the exact same way. Jeremiah Clark looks at me, and I said, Well, don't look at me. I didn't ask you. Look at Winger. And Jeremiah looks back at Winger and says, yeah. And he says, well, then you're going to do it. I start swallowing my tongue at that moment because I realized it wasn't the time to show the emotion I was feeling. We go through with the ceremony. We get up to the top. I'm watching this all unfold. Scott's dad is there. You have a military family, everything else, and you just forfeited a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to present the wreath for our school, for our community, and gave it to someone else who desired to do it. We watch all this happen, and I'm watching your dad a little bit too, and you can kind of see in your dad was like, dang it, man, I want to watch my boy do that. We walk away, the ceremony ends, and everybody exits, right? The guard, they finish the ceremony, the wreath goes up, the changing of the guard happens, we all exit to finish our tour of Arlington. I stay behind because I can't compose myself enough to finish walking out. Your dad is about 50 yards in front of me and turns around and sees me trying to get my crap together. Comes back, says, you all right? I said, I can't even talk to you right now. I can't. He said, you okay? I said, I'll tell you in a minute. I just can't. Because I'm thinking about not only as a school leader, a community leader, but as a father, as a man, and as a human being, the gift you just gave to someone else that was so selfless, was showed character beyond anyone else I had come through my classroom. I've had some incredible people come through my classroom, Scott. And finally, your dad comes back to me again. And I said, you have an incredible, God, don't look at me, dude. You have an incredible young man right there, and you have a lot to be proud of. He was the one chosen to put the wreath with the guard. And he noticed that another boy was disappointed that he wasn't going to get to do that. And your son just gave up a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and gifted it to someone else that he's not even close with. He's acquaintances with, friends with. So you got a lot to be proud of, Dad. So I keep walking, and I finally get my crap together. And now I'm turning around, waiting on Dale to get his crap together so he can finish the tour too. So that's the part of the story I don't know if you're aware of.
I did not know that, no.
So here's these two grown men in Arlington that are having a breakdown because of a 13, 14-year-old boy who showed an incredible amount of character and selflessness. So I share that not just to blow you up. I share it because you're exactly who we want in leadership in this country. You're exactly who should be at the Air Force Academy. You're exactly who should be kicking ass all over the world as and representing the United States of America. That's who we need, we want, and we should be celebrating that on a regular basis. So there. That's my story.
Thank you. That's one hell of a story.
Yeah. That's people ask me, I'm not teaching or in administration anymore.
I do now.
Yeah, you weren't aware. Okay. So now I work for a company that sells furniture to schools and businesses.
Okay.
So on and so forth. And I often get asked, you gonna miss it? Yeah, I'm gonna miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Because where else am I gonna get to see that?
Mm-hmm.
Where else am I gonna be able to share and tell other adults that are my age and younger and older, that I feel really good about this generation of kids that are coming through and becoming the next whatever, the next leadership piece, the next pilot, the next senator, the next mayor, the next teacher, the next factory worker, the next person, managing local McDonald's.
Yeah.
I feel really good about it because I get to see that firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't.
That's true.
So I will miss being an educator because I will miss those moments where I get to see absolute selflessness and generosity and humanity happen right before my eyes. I'll miss that. But I sure won't miss some of the dumb discipline stuff I had to deal with.
Yeah, I imagine there was a lot of that. There
So,
was plenty of that.
not only are you at the Air Force Academy, but you also were part of the cheer squad.
Yeah.
Tell me about that because, I'm a former cheerleader and, well, I was a brute, but like as brute, you are the, at that time, we had co-ed cheerleading at Blackford.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know how celebrated cheerleading was at Blackford for many years.
Yeah, with Mrs. Heidi.
Uh,
Yeah, I do remember like just hearing of that
yeah.
and like when Isaac's sister went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a big deal.
go back even further when there were multiple people going to college to cheer there was part of a recruitment process. So, I there's so many. Bodie Malot's dad cheered at Purdue, and multiple people that are in a photograph here on my wall that cheered at IU, that cheered at Ball State. It was very, very celebrated. It was a huge deal for many years. The number of cheerleaders that came through, male and female, that went on to cheer at the collegiate level. Schools all over the state, and maybe even out of state. But it was a really proud thing. So when I found out you were cheering there, I was like, oh man, I got to find out more. That gets me excited.
Yeah, so it was so originally as a kid I loved football.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I want to be a college football player, yada yada. And I wasn't really getting any looks my senior year, which didn't really bother me because it's like I'll be fine. It's in God's hands. It's whatever.
Yep.
And so I get to the academy, and we have what's called this AD brief during basic. It's near the end of basic. It's part of, I won't explain basic right now, but
I want to know about basics. We're coming back to it.
Okay. So we had AD brief, athletic director's brief, and they were up there calling out like teams. So like, oh, if you're recruited to go play tennis, go with your coach now. If you're recruited to go play football, or you're a preferred walk-on, go now. And they name off the preferred walk-ons, and I wasn't one because I hadn't been in contact with the coach, yada yada. And so I was like, well, football is going to take up a lot of time, and freshman year is rough as it is, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. And so, but I still wanted to do something. And so they do, after all we call them ICs, intercollegiate athletes, leave, then they do the walk-on sports. So boxing is big at the Air Force Academy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they go up, talk about boxing. They go up and talk about the club sports. They go up and talk, and then cheer comes on, Coach Hutchin, and she comes on with two seniors last year who were on the team last year who are now second lieutenants, and they do just this very simple stunt from the eyes of a cheerleader.
Yeah.
But someone who hasn't cheered, you look at that and you're just like, that is so sick. That's so cool. That's so cool.
What'd they do?
They just did, it's called hands extension.
Yeah.
So the guy will throw the girl up and he'll catch her feet in his hands.
Yep.
And then he'll press it all the way up to where his arms are fully extended.
Yep.
So it's basically a human stacked on top of another human. And which, when you're a cheerleader, is not that impressive. But when you're not a cheerleader, you're just like, that's so
Freaking
sick.
awesome.
Dude, I would
Right.
love to do that.
Yeah.
And another part of it was I was thinking of Abby, Sophie, Kaylin, Kelsey, that were all cheerleaders, and they were like, you would make a great cheerleader, but I wasn't going to quit basketball or football
Right.
to become a cheerleader. So I get there and I was like, I could probably do that. And so during basic, we would have what we call IC breakouts to where we would go down to the athletic field, and those who were in recruited for sport would go with their sport. Pardon me. And they would go with their sport and practice for like IC breakouts were usually 2 hours in the morning. But if you weren't with your sport, pardon me again, they would do just a workout with the cadre. And so for the first few days, I don't go down to cheer because I'm like unsure because I didn't join coach when they said, all right, if you're interested in cheer, go now, because I was thinking, well, maybe there's some other stuff that I might be interested in, but I wasn't. And so we're down there and I'm doing the workout, and I asked one of the cadre, who I didn't know at the time, but he was a cheerleader last year, but wasn't going to be that year. And I was like, hey sir, like, do you know anything about like cheer? And he was like, listen, cheer is great for your first 2 years. Cause like he got super busy his junior year, and so he didn't want to join back on the team. But he was like, you get out of a lot of dumb stuff, because don't get me wrong, love the academy, but there's some dumb stuff that we do, and you get to go down, and it's so much fun. Like the people are great, yada yada. And so I start going down, and I found out I'm pretty good at it. I'm not gonna lie. So growing up, I baled a lot of hay, and it's like those same muscles that you use, and you're throwing the bales up. It's a lot of the same muscles.
Yeah.
And so just also my senior year, I trained a lot of explosiveness, and that's huge in cheer. And I would say I'm bigger than most. And so yeah, I tried out, made the team, and had a blast last year. I mean, it is so much fun. It's a brand new challenge.
Yep.
You know, I haven't been challenged in a new sport since I was in like 6th grade. And so, yeah, it's so much fun. And so this year I tried out for the varsity team, made varsity. The people are absolutely amazing. And I'm just traveling around with the football team, cheering at games and getting to see new places. We traveled to Houston, San Jose. We're going to be going to Annapolis for the Navy game. This is a big one, we're going to Hawaii.
Oh,
The
wow.
Hawaii game.
Oh my gosh.
All on the Air Force dime.
Yeah.
So it's an absolutely amazing opportunity that God has given me to take.
Man. Well, that's so exciting. Your mom had shared that with me. I ran into her at Needler's getting groceries not long after we had moved back last year. It was probably about this time last year. I ran into her, and she told me what you were doing. I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Like, I could see it. I could totally see it, and you got the personality for it, and I knew you had the strength, and it's competitive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not like it's just, standing out there with a megaphone and hollering. I mean, it's competitive within the group, but then it's competitive with the other teams too, because like, oh man, they just did,
Yeah, they just did this and this. Now we need to show
they're
them.
doing a QP. I can do a QP. Let's do it. I mean, you try to do these different stunts. And you guys do Iron Cross? You ever done?
Iron Cross. That sounds familiar.
So at camp, I got to watch a few of the guys that I was cheering with, and I couldn't do it. These guys were incredible. Jason Jones, Kent Norton, all these dudes, man, they were just so strong and so athletic. Mark Donathan, and all these guys, just incredible athletes. And there's so many others. I mean, these guys were just strong, athletic, competitive. Mike Gaither and Brent Selke, God, man, they were so much fun. The girls we had, they would jump out of a basket like, man. We were throwing them trying to get to the ceiling at the high school. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like we were just throwing about 3 feet out of it.
Of course.
These girls were flipping, skying. I wish we could find some video of throwing these girls in the air. And I was the back. I was the I don't even know what the name of it is now, but basically the back of the basket toss.
Yeah.
And my job was to catch the arms as they came down.
Yeah.
And so we're at camp, and one of the guys, Kent Norton, decides he wants to be basket tossed.
Oh, very interesting.
Kent's a big dude, not real tall, but man, just quantity of human being packed in to a body, heavy, muscular, like, holy crap. So we decide, okay, we're going to throw Kent. Kent comes down, and y'all can't see, but I got to...
Oh, He's just flailing his arms. which
looking
is
back,
atrocious.
looking back,
So hard to catch. It's
legs
awful.
moving, arms moving. I'm still at the back of the basket. And dude, I'm telling you, when we threw him, I bet we threw him almost as high as we did the girls because he was strong enough to jump,
Yeah.
hard out of that
Oh.
toss. We hit heads on the way down.
Oh.
We're both laying on the ground. We're trying to get our crap together. He goes, "Let's do it again."
Let's do it again.
So what did we do? We did it again. And we did it again. Oh my God, I had knots all over my head. And this guy, like, yeah, let's do it again. I'm like, I'm done, dude. I can't even see straight now. But we had a blast. I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite things I did in high school. And unlike you, I dropped out of sports after my freshman year, and cheer came along, chance to be the mascot. And I had a ton of school spirit and want to be a part of something. And man, that was a great fit for me. I had a lot of fun. God,
It's so much fun.
so much of me would love to see that come back and just see, being carried around as Brute around the school gym before a game. One of my favorite memories. Those guys were like pinching my leg, like messing with me. We'd have, man, it was so much fun. Having a co-ed squad is such a different atmosphere and experience than what you would imagine. Am I right?
No, I bet.
Well, you're a part of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're part of a
I thought
co-ed.
you were talking about Blackford.
Well, even then, I mean, we were doing things that we shouldn't have been doing in high school. We were pushed. We were pushed really hard, and that's why guys and gals went on to cheer at college. I mean, I think probably the one that had the most success was Patrick McDermott. I'm actually getting ready to go out to his brother's house when we get done here for chilioke.
Interesting.
Chili and karaoke.
Okay.
So I'm excited. I haven't sang karaoke in years, and that's one thing I've certainly missed. But Patrick goes on to work for UCA and eventually goes on through his UCA connections. Are you familiar with UCA?
Yeah.
Yeah, so through his UCA connections, goes on to work for Disney.
Wow.
And he's still working for, I believe it's with Disney, but I think he's out in Las Vegas managing some huge like spa out.
Interesting.
I mean, just a great experience for him. And those guys had a totally different experience than I did. They went collegiately and cheered on. I was just a lowly mascot that looked really good in a bear costume. I had a face for mascot.
Oh.
So I want to come back. I want to come back to basic training. Tell me about that. I mean, you're obviously very physically fit. You like that competitive thing. You like the athleticism. Tell us about what that looks like for someone going into the service, the Air Force, for you going into, tell us about it.
Yeah. So first off, so they give you, once you get accepted, they send you this a workout plan.
Okay.
They send you this workout plan, being like, this is by no means mandatory, but it would help you. So I'm doing that. As soon as school gets out, I am on the workout plan for I had like 3 weeks of summer.
Okay.
Before I had to, because I graduated June 3rd and then had to report June, it was either 24th or 23rd.
That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. And so I am doing the workout, and I was stressing because I was like, I'm huffing and puffing down here. And, the Air Force Academy is 7,000.
San Antonio?
No, the Air Force Academy.
Oh, okay. So you're out in Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Air Force Academy is 7,280. 85? No, I bet I butchered that number, which is really embarrassing for me because we had to memorize it during basic.
Man, they're not listening to.
Okay, we'll just bypass that. But and so I was really worried. I was like, I'm breathing hard down here. Like, what happens when we get up there? Like, I can't do as many push-ups as I need to be. So we get up there, and I was like, this is my main concern to my dad. And Dad goes, he's like, I guarantee you will be in better shape than 2/3 of the people there. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, you're just saying that because you're my dad.
Right.
There's no way.
Is your dad that guy? I can't imagine your dad being that guy.
No, but I just
To
was,
just say
I was
something.
psyching myself out,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like you also, I mean, he graduated in 90 and I,
Yeah.
you know, got in 22. That's 32 years.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, oh, things have probably changed, like yada yada. And yeah, no, he was right. Like, don't get me wrong, the Air Force Academy is the cream of the crop, and
Yeah.
there are some incredibly smart people there, not to mention some freak athletes. But then again, there are some other people who are more mentally talented than they are physically talented. And so I would say I'm a good happy medium, not the smartest guy in the room, not the fittest guy in the room. But yeah, I did notice that I was faster than some and quicker, jump higher, stronger, yada yada. And so basic honestly was not that physically tough for me. So another thing is it has changed drastically since my mom and dad went through. When my mom and dad went through, I had heard all of their horror stories, so I was expecting the absolute worst, right?
Mhm.
But then again, it's been, as I said, 30
32,
plus
yeah.
years. And so mom said, "Oh yeah, like you're going to get called maggot a lot. Expect that." Everybody, all three of them, my dad, my mother, and my uncle all said it's a giant game you can't win, which is, that hasn't changed. You're never right. It's a giant game you can't win. Um, the best you could do is just finish it off. But mom said, "Oh, you'll get called maggot a lot." Dad said, "You'll be out PTing at 6 a.m. the next day, like right after I Day, which is the first day where we go in and get it in processing day."
Mhm.
And but man, had things changed.
Okay.
So for the first week, we didn't do any PT, no physical training, for two reasons. One is so that we could get acclimated to the height. Another is they needed to wait on our sickle cell tests to get back, because the first day they draw like 5 vials
Oh,
of
yeah.
blood and making sure everyone's good to
Yeah.
go. And so
They didn't do that. Well, yeah, I guess they don't do that at MEPS. I mean, that's not gonna. Okay.
no, and so basic is split up into two different parts. One is 3 weeks, and the other one is 3 weeks, for a total of approximately 6 weeks. And it's called First Beast and Second Beast. So First Beast, you spend 3 weeks up on the hill, is what they call it, like the actual campus. So we stay in the dorms. We went to a lot of briefs. That's where we did most of the icy breakouts that I was talking about. And there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of like learning how to be a cadet.
Mm-hmm.
And so big things were like SAPR briefs. SAPR stands for Sexual Assault Prevention. I forgot what the R stands for, but it's uh, in the Army it's called SHARP.
Okay.
But it's just sexual assault prevention. A lot of briefs about that, and diversity and inclusion briefs. Just learning the basics
Sure.
of how to be a cadet. And then the second beast, you march to Jack's Valley, where you start doing more physically challenging things. So you have the assault course, the obstacle course. You'll have FEST, which was Forward Expeditionary Station Training, I believe is the correct acronym, where we did, it's kind of like if that, because we set up tents, like Vietnam era tents,
Okay.
slept on cots. It was basically as if you were deployed to a forward base in enemy territory. So they would set off air cannons. There would be air raid sirens, yada yada, and we had to work different posts like just around the area to make sure it was safe. And they would have quote like insurgents end quote, which were older cadets that would come and just like mess with you. And so we stayed up all night going in shifts of like 2 to 1 hour shifts, making sure everything was good. And then what else? Oh, we also got gassed. We were the first class to get gassed in a while because during COVID they didn't do any gassing.
Right.
The leadership reaction course, and just different things like that. And then You come back to the academy for about a few more days, because Second Beast isn't a full, or going to Jack's Valley isn't a full 3 weeks.
Okay.
So you come back, finish up stuff, more briefs, and then I remember the last day of basic. It was so strange. It was so, because for the past 6 weeks, I had been told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and then we go to breakfast in the morning. We march all to breakfast. We wake up in the morning. Every morning of basic, we did the Airman's Creed. And then we'd start the day. So we woke up, Airman's Creed, went to breakfast, and then if I remember right, there was like, and then that was like kind of it. It was weird. We went back, packed our stuff, and then they moved us to our academic year squadron, because all of the basics are there's two different dormitories, Saigon and Vandenberg. All of the basics are in Vandenberg, Maine. There's Vandenberg, Maine, and Vandenberg Tower. And then all of the basics on moving day, on the last day of basic, move all of their stuff to their like academic year squadrons. So they'll move across the Saigon and split up evenly, in accordance with your basic flight. Pardon me. And so then we move to our new squadron, and then the cadre just leave. And we were like, because there's this thing, it's called basic brain.
Yeah.
Everybody has basic brain. You like don't do anything unless you're told to.
Right.
Right. And so like, you're a robot. You are a robot coming out of basic. And so it's called throwing out. You basically just like raise your arm out. It's kind of like raising your hand in class. And you report in. There's a whole report in procedure. And we were asked like, what do we do now? And they're like, oh, like you're free to do what you want. And we're like, this is a new concept. This is crazy. We love this. And so a group of us, like, also during your freshman year, you run the strips. So there are marble strips on the terrazzo, which is just the big open area in between the dorms, and Mitchell Hall, which is our dining hall. And so a group of us ran the strips to Mitchell Hall and ate like by ourselves, not at attention. We could like look around and put our back up against the back of the seat. It was outstanding, let me tell you. And so that was good. And then started freshman year. So academics, in-year training, we have minutes. Training in squadron is very squadron dependent. There's 40 squadrons, and Squadron 5, which was my dual year squadron, was one of the tougher ones. So
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by one of the tougher ones?
So each squadron basically runs its own training.
Okay.
And cadets head that up. So the upper class cadets head that up. And so I know, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. It's called minutes every morning. At 6:30, you had to be out in the hallway in UOD, which is uniform of the day, and you would call checkpoints, which is the days until stuff for each class. So for my class, my dual year was the days until recognition, the days of commitment for the sophomore class, the days until ring dance for the junior class, and the days until graduation for the senior class. You would call that. Each of us had to have a news article, not memorized verbatim, but summarized.
Mm-hmm.
And just different stuff in the morning. A lot of times we would what's called Superman is you go change out of the UOD and change into a different uniform, hang up all of your stuff perfectly, and be back out in the hallway in 5 minutes. And so minutes, we had that every morning. All weekday mornings we had minutes. But there were other squadrons who only had it twice or 3 times a week.
So you just had some cadets who were just harder.
Yeah.
Ask more.
Yeah, sometimes for the better, sometimes not
Sure.
for the better.
Hardest part?
The hardest part of the academic year or basic?
Let's start with basic.
Basic, for me, oh, this is going to sound kind of dumb, but for me, the hardest part was just studying at attention. I hated that. So
Describe it.
okay, so the position of attention is obviously you stand up straight, like shoulders back.
Yep.
You have your hands cupped and at your sides, pinned to your sides. Eyes straight forward, eyes caged is what we called it. But studying at attention is you would take your contrails, which is your basically the Dooley Bible of all the stuff that you need to memorize for the year, and you would take it in your right hand and you would hold your elbow up at a 90-degree angle from your body, and you would read your book in silence. Nothing is happening. Probably 30 seconds in, you're not even concerned about your book. You're just concerned about the pain in your arm.
Right.
And they also have what's called a PT card. So a PT card is you're allowed to do, and they give it to the cadre, you're allowed to do this much PT, these exercises, this many times a day. So whether it be for correctional purposes or just because the cadre were feeling like it, or, you know, we messed up in some major way, we would go through the PT card. But once that PT card was done, they've done all the exercises, there is no other form of punishment besides studying at attention. And that sucked. Oh my gosh. I would much rather be cranking out push-ups, doing squats, running. Oh, that was the worst part for me, honestly.
Yeah.
The A course was also pretty bad. The A course is it's this massive obstacle course, but so there's the obstacle course and the A course. The obstacle course doesn't have water obstacles. The A course does.
Okay.
And so you'd be low crawling in the mud, get sand and muddy water all up in your OCPs, and then you're low crawling and sand's just grinding at your knees, and it's nonstop movement. You never stop moving. So even if you're waiting to go through an obstacle, you're chopping your feet, and then like the air cannon would go off, and you'd hit a squat. You'd hold your rifle out in front of you and yell. So yeah, that was not fun. You are dog tired after that. But yeah, studying at attention was just kind of a dumb one. Because like,
Studying at attention.
I can take the yelling. Yelling's not that big. Don't get me wrong, I love my family, but I wasn't homesick. I was too busy to be homesick.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just studying at attention. Sucked.
Favorite part.
A basic.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, one of the best parts of the night was, especially if we had a good day. If we had a good day, everyone was like behaving, everybody was on their stuff, was we would change and line up outside of the showers, right? And there's only like 6 showers, especially up on the hill. There's only like 6 showers per bathroom. And so only groups of people could go in at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest of us would be out there with the cadre. And that's when we would try to like break them. We would be like, or tell them jokes or stuff like that, just say stupid stuff, because breaking the cadre was so funny. It was absolutely hilarious. And so those are the times that you really like just also bonded as a team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. That part was good.
What would it look like to break one of the cadre?
You either just say something because like the cadre are like never supposed to smile. So if you make them smile, or better, if you make them laugh, that was golden. That was golden to make.
Was there a scorecard for you guys? I mean, it had to be some kind of competitive edge where it was like, oh man, I'm gonna get them next time, you know? Or,
oh yeah, just say some dumb stuff. I remember they would always. This wasn't at the showers, but every time, because they would say basics gaze, and that means we could break the position of attention and look wherever they're pointing us to. And one time it was like just the sunrise. And during first piece, anytime I saw sunrise, I would throw out, and they would call me to go through the process, and it would be like, "Can I make a statement?" And they're like, "Sir." I was like, "Sir, God bless America." And they're like, "Okay, Winger. All right, let's get it moving. We got places to be." And then I said that second beast. It was so funny. I said that second piece. We gazed at the sunrise, and I said, "God bless America." And my cadre, he goes, "Winger, shut up." And then we just went on about our day. It's just the little things that are really not funny looking in, but
Yeah.
when you're in basic, when nothing's supposed to be funny, it's hilarious.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. In that moment of everybody's trying to keep
Exactly.
just keep that focus.
Oh, one time, this was crazy. We would have bearing competitions. So everybody would close their eyes and they're like, "All right, go." Everybody would open their eyes and the cadre would come just up and down and just like maybe do something weird, right? And you can't laugh. And also since it's a time where you can't laugh, you look at your buddy
Oh man,
who's
that's
who's already goofy looking because we're all bald.
right.
It just you lose it, right? And so they were like, "All right, bearing competition. Everybody close your eyes. 3, 2, 1, go." We open our eyes, and someone in the flight rips a massive fart. Huge. We all lose it. So it's just moments like that that you remember that are good parts of basic.
Sure. So moving into freshman or sophomore year,
Yeah.
let's transition. Let's back up even more. Transition out of basic into freshman year.
Yeah, so the difference between basic and freshman year is pretty big. Like you have more freedoms. Granted, there still are we call them ROEs, rules of engagement,
Okay.
during your freshman year that you have to follow that the upperclassmen don't. Um, and so that difference is pretty big. But one of the biggest differences is in between freshman year, unrecognized, and when you finally get recognized. So recognition is basically a weekend thing. It starts Thursday after classes. Fridays all work, and then Saturday morning up until about the afternoon, where you go on the famous March to the Rock with your seniors.
Okay.
And then after you get back, you're finally recognized. And so you don't have to do the dually ROEs anymore. You don't have to call people by their last name anymore. You don't have the minutes in the morning and different stuff like that. And so the difference between that is like a night and day. Like you're no longer treated like whale poop at the bottom of the ocean, you know? And so, yeah. But overall, like, I believe we had a good squad, even though it was a little tougher than others. We had a good squad. There's some good people in there for sure.
Good.
And so, yeah, freshman year was the really high highs and really low lows.
Gotcha.
So there'd be times I remember.
And that's the goal.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
That's the whole goal of that experience for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To make it like, part of it is like, are you sure you want to be here?
Right.
And then another part is we're developing you as a follower that way, because as I said earlier, every good leader was or is a follower.
Followership is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very important piece of that. If you don't understand what it is to be a follower, how are you expected to be a good leader?
Exactly.
You're
How
not
can
a
you
good
sympathize?
follower. Right. I mean, man, huge piece. I absolutely love being an assistant principal.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite things I've done. I've really loved it. And I liked being a school principal. It was a great experience as well. But I loved being a follower of my principal. As
Mm-hmm.
strange as that may sound, someone who I enjoyed the leadership position, but I really enjoyed serving my principal when I was an assistant. And my principal at the time, his name was Dan Grill. And Dan was someone who made it very easy to follow him because he understood that role
Mm-hmm.
very well. And just, having that loyalty, having that understanding of I'm going to serve that person because a servant leader understands that as well. And he was really good at it. And always worried about that with me as a leader in a school. Am I a good servant leader? Am I
Mm-hmm.
good enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we all struggle with that a little bit, but
Oh, yeah.
I love that you're going through this experience. What are you looking forward to?
This year,
Yeah.
really, the The cheer team is like huge. Like,
Yeah.
the cheer team is the best decision I've made since I've been
That's
at the academy.
so awesome to hear, man.
It's so great. The people are absolutely amazing. It's, as I said, it's a new challenge. I love going down and practicing, and then I get to travel this year.
Yeah.
So that's huge, being able to travel, and then also in pardon me, in the spring we will travel to Daytona, Florida, and compete in the national
I
competition.
love it. Man, I'm so excited. Now I got another reason to watch it again. I
Yeah,
always felt like a weirdo because I would like turn it on and my wife's like, "What are you doing? Why are you
yeah.
watching?" I'm like, "Man, I love cheer.
It's
I really
super
enjoyed it. I, one of those where you look back and you go, "Gosh, I wish I'd have done that more.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd have done that as a sophomore, junior, and a senior, not just 1 year." And
Yeah.
as it was a fantastic experience, and you form bonds with those people. It's small enough.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, your crew is small enough to where you know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you know how to motivate one another. It's a very small team. You know,
Mhm.
it's not like a group of 50.
Exactly.
You know, this group we have maybe 18.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
Varsity is actually 18
Yeah.
exactly because there's 9 couples.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, do you have one partner that's who you work with all the time, or do you
Yes.
guys? Okay. And I'm assuming there's alternates in there, is that the JV
So
squad, or
no, so there's there's 18 varsity and then there's 18 JV. So this is actually coach's biggest team that she's ever had because what the deal is on varsity there's 3 couples who don't travel while the
Okay.
other 6 do. And then on JV it's weird because this year on JV it's all freshmen. All 18 are freshmen, whereas last year um, it was mostly freshmen and then a mix of a few upperclassmen, so they kind of helped lead. And so, but the JV's doing fine this year.
good? Favorite stunt?
Favorite stunt? Um, right now I think it's called a toss QP.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably know what it
Yep.
is, but these people don't. It's where um, I throw a girl all the way to the top and then hold her 2 feet in my one hand, extended above my head.
Folks, imagine the Statue of Liberty with another a smaller version of a Statue of Liberty standing on her one hand that's holding the torch.
Yeah.
The other arm to your hip,
Mm-hmm.
striking a pose.
Yeah.
Love it.
So yeah, that one's pretty fun. Just because I think it's just like, yeah, I'm pretty strong. What
It's
about
like,
it?
Yep, I got you.
So
Yeah, but she's got to be strong too. It's not all
Yeah.
about you, that's
Oh,
for
that's so
sure.
true.
Holy moly, man.
Mhm.
I mean, if she can't jump, if she can't hold that,
she's not. Yeah.
it's not going to work.
Mhm.
Noodles,
Mhm.
it's over.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, they're not getting there noodly anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's a partnership.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It is
I have a
both
great partner.
people working together. That's awesome. School wise, your studies, how's that going?
Yeah, it's going not too bad. So I recently declared in econ and management. So it's a double major. Um, so I'm really excited to get into my major classes because there at the academy there are a bunch of classes that are mandatory for the school but not for your major. So
Okay.
for instance, I took physics 1 last year. I'm taking physics 2 right now. I'm in mechanical engineering. I'm in econ right now, which is towards my major, but everybody has to take it. And then later in my cadet career, I'll take ECE, um, aeronautical engineering, astronomical engineering. Um, I took BSci last semester. And so, yeah, it's just a bunch of extra stuff that isn't needed for my major, but is needed for the school.
Sure.
So, yeah, going through after this semester, I'll have 1 semester the rest of my cadet career that's under 21 credit hours.
Okay. Boy, that's a load.
Yeah, it is.
Good grief. Summers or taking summers off?
No. Yeah, I'm taking summers off. So, this upcoming summer, you have to do a leadership course. Well, course. It's program. That's what I'm
Okay.
looking for. So you either do combat survival training, you kind of help lead that for the incoming sophomores as an incoming junior, or you do basic. So you help run basic, which is what I plan on doing
Okay.
for the incoming freshmen.
Okay. So you're gonna be that hard ass cadre?
For the first week.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to set a tone.
You got to set the tone, man.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
can like kind of soften up a little.
And honestly, I mean, are you there to be liked, or are you there to develop leaders?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, that's the end goal, and uh, trying to create strong minds, strong bodies, and
Mhm.
you know, I'm sure there's some kind of credo with the Air Force of that goes along with that, but it's not like they're just being hard asses to show they can be the next guy off of
Yeah, Mhm.
some stupid movie about
exactly.
what basic looks like.
Yeah.
So okay, so what's the end goal?
So the end goal is pilot.
Yeah.
So I did a summer program this year called Powered Flight, where we did 4 flights over each about an hour and a half over the course of 6 weeks. Not 6 weeks, sorry, 3 weeks. Because there's a lot of kids in the program, and it's also very weather dependent.
Okay.
And so I only got 4 flights, which was the required to finish the course. They really wouldn't let you get more because there's still so many people. And so I went up my first flight with a major who flew CV-22s. And so we're just flying along, and we did what's called the mountain tour, which we went southwest of the academy into the mountains, and we're just flying through this like little gorge, this little valley with mountains on both sides.
I'm
And
having Top Gun visions right now
it
in my
was
head.
great.
Yeah.
And it's not we weren't even doing that anything like complicated
Yeah.
or intricate. And he just goes, "All right, go ahead and drop altitude, like get real low into the valley." He's like, "Technically, we're not allowed to fly this low, but just don't tell anybody." And I was like, "Okay." So we're going with the nape of the land, just cruising back and forth, and then I just bank left around this mountain and out of the valley, and I just thought to myself, I'm just like, I'm gonna be a pilot.
This is what I want to do.
This is what I want to do.
Man, uh, as you're telling that, I could see, you and folks, you can't see him, but you could see like his eyes just went a little bit glossy, and he said, "I bank left," and I could see it right there where that was the aha moment
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, "Oh man, I want to do this."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. Dude, I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud of you, and you're making us all proud. That's for sure. We're glad you're doing what you're doing, and no doubt, I'm excited to see what's next, brother.
I'm very excited as well.
Did I miss anything?
Not that I can think.
I like it when I don't miss anything or don't forget stuff. There are times when I listen back and I go, "Oh, I forgot to ask about that again."
Yeah. I don't think
No,
so.
yeah, good. Well, brother, thanks for coming. I'm gonna go karaoke.
Okay, tear it up.
Man. I haven't karaoke in a long time. I don't know if you knew. I love to sing.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, I mean,
We have this
it's a-
little
this is my old band over here on the wall. That was the band I was in, and CD that we pushed out. And
no way. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Did not know that.
Mm-mm.
Man, there's all kinds of secrets. I
Oh, yeah.
like it. I like it. Sorry, it's kind of falling apart, and
That's all right.
it's old. I'm getting old. Dude, thanks so much. We're going to get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Winger, how can people reach out to you? How can we connect with you? Follow your
Oh,
journey?
Um,
Instagram, anything like that? I
yeah.
know you're on the gram.
yeah, probably just my Instagram. Just look up Scott Winger. I don't even know my handle.
You don't even know your own handle.
No, no, I don't.
Dude, I'll try and find it and put it in the notes.
Okay.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. And, God bless you. And Godspeed, dude.
Thanks for having me on.
Rolling. Thank you. We're out, people.